Good afternoon, and welcome to week 13 of child psychology. And we are probably finishing up this middle childhood. What that means is that next week we'll be tackling the issues of adolescence and looking at those major life changes and finishing as we're finishing the idea of children, middle children, because I'm saying finishing children because next is adolescence. We often use those as two different terms. It's like two different stages of our lives. So this is where this becomes really important to kind of sum it all up. And I gave you a very interesting and maybe a little bit of controversial topic to discuss, to consider, the child in the basement story. That I think, Deneb, you said that you have some experience with this in your ethics class. I like ethics. I've always liked ethics. I've had a lot of students say they enjoy ethics and psychology because we tend to look at things in opposite ways. Unfortunately, ethics tends to justify a lot, and psychology tends to hold up the microscope to a lot of our behaviors. And true peace and acceptance is probably found somewhere in the middle. So anyway, with the child in the basement story, there is a purpose in talking about this, is we have the opportunity to pour into the life of children, not to shape them, because that's not what happens, but more to pour into their lives and help them to understand things. And this is a challenge for all of us. I call it counting the cost. That everything has a cost and everything has consequences. So those things that you really, really love, they come at an expense to someone else. Now, this is not an exercise in, um, I don't know, making people feel bad or anything like that. This is an exercise to say that all children should learn to count the cost. It should think about, how do we go from A to Z? If you want to get to Z, you have to understand how to get from A to Z. It's not a matter of Santa Claus leaving the presents under the tree. It's not a matter of you whine loud enough and mom and dad just provide it. But instead, it is important to understand that everything has that cost. Okay. Um, so I asked you, what are the costs? And Tanika mentioned, just among many very, very good answers. Tanika, I like what you said. The things that we really appreciate in life often come by way of spending money. Things often cost money. And to get money, you have to work. And so there's that effort. I don't like to think of careers or work in terms of money, because, well, there are great things in life that can be achieved without having to spend money. Also, I don't like thinking about working in terms of money, because we should work because we love what we do, and that's part of who we are. We want to be who we are, and we want to turn to teach children, help children develop the idea that they are somebody and they're here on a purpose and they have a mark on the world, and that comes down to their happiness comes down to being able to serve in that capacity. And I've seen so many people who are miserable, not miserable because they lose their job, but miserable because they no longer are able to do that which they really feel inside that purpose to do. So that was good. That was good mention. Um, you know, Kalia, I don't know. I think that's how you say your name. Your answer was brilliant, talking about materialism. And truthfully, now we do live in a materialistic society, and we are always trying to fight materialism in children. But the truth is that truly materialistic people, or people who take that and make that their central point in there is no happiness. I'm serious. I'm 54 years old and never met a happy person who's truly materialistic. People I know who are happiest are people who have purpose in life and live their lives with a value and valuing other people. Um, so back to Deneb mentioning your ethics class. Um, you know, that's a challenge. There's that challenge not to rationalize um, rationalize the cost to other people based on, well, that person agrees to do it, they came to apply for the job or whatever. On the other hand, our encouragement is to count the cost and to value that person's work. And unless they say they're miserable or whatever, you know, it's not our duty to say, well, you're miserable, you need to be emancipated from this. So you got to find that value that some people do count the cost. That's what they want to do. And so it wouldn't be right for somebody to come in and tell them that there is something different. I mean that they're not right to enjoy their job because they don't make enough or something like that. And then, you know, April, your statement that, or your statement in so many words, that everyone really is important and there is value in that. That's really a great lesson for everyone to learn, for children to learn. That it's not just, you know, you want to have the high paying job because that's the only way to have value. It's everybody has value, from the people who do the low paying jobs to the people who do the highest paying jobs. They're all valuable. They're all important. Um, you know, and I'm just going to throw this in because it's in the news, and we're talking about the I, Operation Varsity Blues, I think it is, of the situation. And I was just reading um, this this another set of people are are being charged and all. Um, and the difference between those who have kind of copped to a plea and the people who are fighting it or whatever, and all the things that people do. And it takes me back to the story of the child in the basement. If you have money, do you really have the right to do whatever? And do you really live by a different set of rules? Because we're preparing children as child psychologists and people who practice child psychology, whatever you do, we're preparing children to be adults. So, to what degree are our actions preparing them to be unethical adults? And these parents who would be willing to, because they have the money, to pay any amount of money just to get their kids in, are probably not really setting their kids up to become ethical adults. And so it perpetuates, you know. I don't have a problem with class system in America as much as I have a problem with that feeling that some people are above the law. It's not what we want to raise our children, is it, to believe. So anyway, I'm interested in good children as good adults, and this is an important lesson to learn. So anyway, I hope y'all are having a great week this week, week 13, and I'll see you next week, and take care of yourselves.